Hey, fellow artists, welcome to the 5th Psycheopera Creators Live, where I'll be showcasing fellow builders of musical instruments and their work. Whether it's rustic cigar box guitars, traditional flutes, trash bin percussion, synthesizers, software instruments, DIY MIDI controllers, or classical guitars made by luthiers, if it's made, folks, by humans in a workshop and not by machines in a factory, then I want to talk about it. Today, we're meeting up with the Flute Wizard, Kyle Neidig, once again to discuss the process of building flutes and cigar box guitars. Why guitars? The great Flute Wizard is planning to build his first CBG very soon. But let's take a look at his latest build, the walking stick drone flute he built for my husband Lawrence. This is a segment from the unboxing video we filmed last night. So stay tuned to Lawrence's channel at the Wayfair Project, by the way, to see the entire video. I do believe it will amuse many of you, the unboxing video. You'll find out why. But I'm hoping that it will not displease the Flute Wizard. So, without any further ado, let's see a little piece of this unboxing video. Let me see. Okay, trigger number 3. Here we go. All right, folks, here we have the Flute Wizard. The person that you saw you just saw playing the Flute Wizard's flute was my husband, Lawrence. He is an incredible wind player, but that flute was built by the great Flute Wizard. Welcome, Kyle, back to the show.
Hey, that was a fun, I was waiting for the audio of Lawrence to finish and kind of simultaneously watching the delay on YouTube because I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I'll be watching that unboxing video too. But yeah, that sounded great. Nice little post production, some reverb on there and whatnot. That was lovely and interesting. Was that shot in your workshop?
Yes, that was shot in our workshop, and we're gonna be doing more filming in there soon.
That was like a little nighttime scene.
Yes.
It was like, yeah.
Yes, and in
That was
fact,
cool.
there's because there are mosquitoes.
Oh yeah.
This time at night that float around. There's actually a fire pit behind us that was we had a nice campfire going on behind the camera, and Lawrence films around the fire as well, and we get
Nice.
a really good vibe. And that we did a lot in the unboxing videos. So yeah, that'll be out in about a day or so. So
Great. I look forward to watching that. That was cool. And I watched the video that you just posted a day or two ago with your workshop and your swamp cooler that your mom got you, and
yeah.
the tour around your property. You got a big property. That place looks awesome.
We got 5 acres, Kyle.
Oh my God!
It's...
Can I come live there with set up a tiny house?
You can scope out one of our granddaddy trees and build a tree house, and
nice.
we'll have a little music commune here.
I mean, they got like massive amounts of garden space and raised beds and like all that. It seems like a dream property. Like that's amazing.
When I fell in love with this place, when I landed on it, the thing is, in as far as self-sufficiency is concerned, man, this property is really hard to grow stuff on. You dig a couple of feet, and Kyle, it's just sand. It's just coral and sand. And so we've had to do a lot of research.
Mm.
Um, and we've had to basically work with what was here. We're growing a lot of what we harvest grows wild.
Ah,
So
that's good.
we
That's
have
good.
we just have a lot of wild areas where we're growing summer grapes. Oh, you saw the grapes. And the maypop, tremendous amount of maypop, and there's a lot of fruit in these, I mean a lot of food in these vines because the leaves are edible and they're not hairy or anything. They're not like commercial passion fruit that have hairy leaves. The leaves of Passiflora incarnata or maypop, they're like it's like eating a piece of lettuce. They're very nice, and
Wow.
and we have tons of. I have to go out and harvest some, but the raised beds, even because the soil is so draining the beds themselves, it's hard to keep water to stay in the beds. So
Gotcha.
only certain things grow well. So we learned what grows well here, and we're sticking to perennials because our schedule, as you know, filming, making, doing events and stuff. At least we're gonna start doing events starting in November. Um, we have to keep the workload out there, manageable. And so, yeah. When we go out
Cool.
harvesting, I'll film things. But I wanted
Yeah,
to
definitely
ask
go
you,
for it.
so last night after filming the unboxing, I finally got a chance to play your walking stick flute. Lawrence was hogging it a bit, and and wow, I was genuinely surprised by how little air pressure it takes to play. I own a just as a point of comparison. This is where I'm coming from.
Uh-huh. That looks like
This
that's like a nice case. I like that case.
this is the original case for a Chinese hulusi from
Oh, you got the Halusi.
yeah from and this is a performance grade soprano. My
Nice.
dad, he for work he used to travel to China and he bought this in a Chinese store. This is not the ones you buy on Amazon, man. We've bought a few on Amazon and the tuning is off and there's
Yeah, I mean, you get what you pay for. It's that
that's
stuff like
right.
that. It's
Yeah.
tricky. Sometimes you can get something that's comparable, but like not all the time. Like that, I'm sure that one kicks ass.
This one does kick ass. It sounds good,
Yeah.
but let me tell you the amount of air you need to
Mm.
play this drone thing to get a sound out of it. It's
Hmm.
like I'm pushing really
Wow.
hard.
That
Um,
sounds great. That sounds great though. That's super cool. I
it's
guess that's it's there's the mouthpiece is a reed, right?
yes,
Or is yeah.
there's a
So
reed
that's
in there.
yeah, so that's also like I think the gourd you're pushing air into the gourd and the gourd is hollow, but then it's firing into the three separate chambers. So a lot of your air is getting um, basically condensing in the gourd and then it's moving down into the pipe. So it's got this like sort of delayed reaction type thing.
Okay.
And that might just contribute to the fact that yes, it takes that much more air because it has such a big space to fill first before it moves throughout the rest of the pipes. At least
Well,
that's my thought on it. Like
well,
if I had to
your
take a guess.
instrument, and I expected your instrument to be the same because it's so long.
Yeah.
Um, I know that it's half and half, but still, you're sending air to two chambers, and I found myself okay. I gotta back off. I gotta
Yeah,
back off,
you gotta back off. Yeah,
and so I
which
actually
also it trains the lungs to be a way more proficient and like a proficient and energy efficient player. Like you're not expelling so much energy into the flute, so it's also part of that aspect of like breath meditation where like you have to back off and be more a little bit more reserved and a little bit more timid on the flute, but in turn that type of breath control is massive for intermediate to advanced like playing down the line when you know how to like if you move
right.
to a bass flute and a bass flute requires more breath, but then you're used to playing very gentle on an instrument, then you take that gentleness and you apply it to the way that bass flutes normally operate, where you can't be aggressive with them. You have to be a
Right.
little bit more reserved. And it's all what it's like. at first it might be challenging because you're like, oh, I'm blowing too hard, like I'm like making the flute pop or squeal, or like I'm overblowing, and like it's
Yeah,
being. But in the long run, a well-made flute makes the player
better.
really kind of, yeah, better, and pull back and be way more methodical and precise about how you deliver your wind into
You're
the instrument.
absolutely right about it. It's like I'm used to playing these things,
Yeah.
and when I got to your flute, I just noticed how bad my breath control really was. And I'm like, dang, I thought I was gonna like kill this thing. And it's like, no, no,
No,
you
you give
gotta.
yourself, you play on that thing for like a week, and you'll be like light years ahead of where you thought you were, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, like now you've retrained your lungs to approach flutes in a slightly different way, and then you carry that lesson with you throughout the rest of your playing, and it's just it's a natural part of the process and the evolution of playing wind instruments. Like each type of wind instrument requires a different embouchure and a different level of playing. Like if you're playing the trumpet or the didgeridoo or the saxophone, like you have to like wail on those things to a
Yeah,
certain extent. You know,
yeah,
capturing all the the wind in your cheeks and then pushing out. So every wind instrument is going to require a different sort of approach, and they all in turn help each other out. If you get this well-rounded experience of playing a bunch of different instruments, even the halusi would make you play, saxophones and trumpets better because it's requiring so much more delivery from you. So
yes.
there's a win-win there. You just have to figure out how to apply everything. At least
You
that's my opinion
you're
on it.
absolutely right. In college, my parents got me a clarinet to play with, and
Mm,
I was flabbergasted with how much air how much pressure you have to get a sound out. And so when I got this whole Lucy, it was like, okay, this is kind of like a clarinet, all right?
yeah.
But no, your instrument is entirely different. Yeah, it did reveal where I need things that I need to work on. So I know that that's Lawrence's flute, but I look forward to stealing it sometimes
Well,
and
that's the best
play.
part. That's the best part is like, maybe in, I'd love to see it, pop up on stage in one of your live concerts,
Oh, it
like,
will.
and stuff like that with your large ensemble of people and the lighting and the sound effects and all the tech. Like, it'd be cool to see that on stage. And what's nice about that is that now that gives you perspective. That's an A4. So that A4 is extremely manageable for your hands, you know?
Yes.
And so imagine like, yeah, drone flutes are great, but there's the trade-off where this is also what's it called? This is an A4, okay? And
Nice.
I'm trying to hold it up so it's balanced in the camera. So, the thing about holding traditional drone flutes is that they're kind of like wafers. They're like a submarine sandwich or like a hamburger. Like you're holding this weird like thing, okay? And yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. Like if your hands are like this, with like an ocarina. So take for example this guy. This is brand new, meant for the festival in a week or so. This is a B3. So
Hmm.
basically, this is a whole octave away from the drone flute that you both have over there now, and you've got this beautiful, beautiful sound of this low bass flute in B, which is like it's a really big flute. It's like this is like a decent sized flute, but when you condense it down into the ocarina, it just breaks all the rules, and
Yeah.
so you could play a B3, you could play an A3, you could play a G3 with the ocarina style. Of course, you would be so much more comfortable with your hands wrapping around
Yeah.
this small little instrument. And then it's just a matter of you understanding the breath pressure techniques and how to make this particular device
Right.
operate in comparison to playing the other wind instruments that you may have in your collection. So,
I want to ask you um
mm,
some questions about the ocarina, but before I do that, let me acknowledge the chat. We've got
oh
some
yeah,
beautiful people in the chat.
welcome, welcome, chat.
Yeah, welcome Liesel, welcome Albert.
Cloudface, Liesel, musical saw now.
Yes,
Everybody.
yes. So we got some incredible people in the chat.
Yeah,
Mostly,
thanks for showing up, folks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know that you mentioned that you wanted to pick my brain about cigar box guitars. So we got some cigar box guitar people in the chat who you can also pick their brain as well. So
Sure,
we'll have a nice exchange in the chat. But I want to pick your brain first here.
sure,
So
sure, sure.
um okay, so you've inspired me to take a crack at flute making.
Oh,
And
wow. Cool.
I haven't started it. I've only started the research, but specifically bamboo and terracotta ocarinas because Lawrence and I grow bamboo, and I
Oh,
got an electric
nice.
kiln, and
Wow.
you kind of already mentioned why I have an interest in ocarinas, but the main two reasons why I like them is because first they have a mouthpiece, and I already comfortable playing that type of wind instrument. I don't think I can do the lip shape thing to get other types of flutes to work. So if I can't play them myself, I don't want to build them.
Mhm.
That's just my. I'm that way with my cigar box guitars as well. And second, and this is super cool. Ocarinas are Helmholtz resonators, and they can produce, as you say, surprisingly low notes
Yeah.
in a small package because the pitch is determined by the volume of the chamber, and the chamber doesn't have to be very big to produce um, the tones, kind of like a ported speaker system, and one can reproduce pretty deep tones in a relatively small package, and small package means small
Definitely.
places for the finger holes for small
Yeah.
so great bass instrument for small hands. And so I've done some research and I found that clay ocarinas seem to be easier to start with. And by the
Yeah.
way, folks, in case you're interested, I left links to two really interesting articles about making clay ocarinas. This is the main one that I was looking at, and flute acoustics in the video description box in case you're interested and check them out. But so Kyle, so am I wrong in my assumption that ceramic ocarinas are generally a good place for me to start as someone looking to build ocarinas rather than bamboo?
Um, well, you're going to experience different overall acoustic frequencies and I'd say acoustic physics sort of anomalies depending on the material that you choose to make the vessel out of, the wind vessel out of. So,
Okay.
um, I have a handful of clay ocarinas actually. Just give me 1 second, and I can bring them out.
Ooh, see this collection.
So, um, I to be perfectly honest, the ocarina, as far as a hyper sort of focus and skill training, when I was young and 14, like 13, 14, I got my first ocarina. And then I started playing it a lot in college. So like I'd say 17, 18, 19, and 20 years old, I was like adamant about playing it. And I got really into the ocarina then. And one of the things that I find fascinating about, so like this is a little, it's an old Zelda replica.
Oh, I
But
love that. Yes.
I did a leather wrapping on it in the past. So I've got like 9 clay ocarinas here, two or three of which are like Zelda, kind of replicas from Songbird Ocarina, they've been around for a very, very, very long time, and they make amazing stuff now. Um, and I've got some other ones that are also clay. Um,
Ooh,
just
nice.
and these are
Yeah.
old. All of these are old Songbird models. Like they don't like they make the newer modern versions of like the Ocarina of Time from like Legend of Zelda and things like that too. Like, but all of their production and their molds and all the things that they use to make the ocarinas now are like light years ahead of where they were in the past. So I have some like basically some like original sort of vintage models from them when their company was just like starting to like get a
Wow.
little bit of traction. So they're like collector's pieces now. But so I put so much energy and love into this flute. I haven't played this thing in years, so I'm gonna give it a little toot just to like breathe some life back into it real
Do
quick.
it.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Um, so the main thing with ocarinas, especially the clay ones, you were getting into um, uh, you were getting into talking about the clay and saying, is it a good place to start? And for me, that's what I started on. So yes, I would say go for it. They have more volume. I mean, my bamboo ones, like if you key them up higher in like above the bass range, if they're tenor and alto, they will be comparable in volume, but they'll just have a different shape of their sound because they're made out of of wood or a timber or
Right.
bamboo, and you can make bamboo out of you can make bamboo or you can make ocarinas out of wood as well. I've done it before, and they're very, very nice. A guy that is exceptional at them is Charlie Hind from Hind Ocarina. He's been around for a very long time. Makes amazing wooden ocarinas and also various other wind instruments. But clay is really robust, and it has a really, really bright and vibrant and clean tonal quality. It has massive volume. I'd say in comparison to wood and bamboo, it's generally louder, like all around. And in the classical sense, a lot of the old Italian ocarinas that were made, which are kind of more classic sweet potato shaped, like this. They
Have
have
one of
like
those, yeah.
yeah, they have little apparatuses on the ends of them that are like almost slides where there's like a pitch bending apparatus that is installed into them as well. And so all of the old Italian ocarinas, they go from like here small, like high um what's it called? Like a really higher pitched one, like a tiny little guy, like so, you know. But this is Songbird, but it's the same principle. Everything that's like this can then go like out to like this, like really
Wow.
big. And like they're still beautiful, like sweet potato shaped with, a really nice mouthpiece. But one of the things that differs from my construction to the regular ocarina construction is the actual porthole here. Okay? So you're blowing through this part right here on the tip. You're blowing through this tip. But then the sound, when all holes are closed, is exiting through this porthole here. Okay? And that is a big factor in traditional ocarina construction versus hollow bodied ocarina construction, where my sound is escaping through here as well as the finger holes, and that's it. It doesn't have a constant porthole that the
Right.
sound is always escaping from. So there's a technicality there in terms of the way that the fipple is constructed. And I actually think that this method is the more superior method for, I think, generating extra volume and equal temperament throughout the notes. But I believe it's harder to execute. And so that's one of the things where if you get it down, you can use these molds where you make one half in an impression and then you make the other half and then you slap the thing together and then you fire it in the kiln. I mean, I think you should have if you were able to contact him, he'd be a great guest for future builders podcast.
I'd love to have him
His name
on.
his he goes by Kinfolk Ceramics on Instagram. He is an amazing clay ocarina maker, and he does so many different styles of ocarinas and wind vessels, like triple chambered ocarinas, and like
I've
he's
seen things. Maybe I've seen him on YouTube. Maybe he started a YouTube channel because I've seen somebody make like double and triple
yeah.
chamber ocarinas and stuff. Yeah.
I've been a big fan of his, and you know, he's just a fellow flute maker, wind instrument maker colleague, and you know, he usually posts his pieces on Instagram, and then like they usually sell immediately
Okay.
because he does excellent work. And so Kinfolk Ceramics, seek him out on Instagram, and maybe I don't know if he has a YouTube. Like I'm not super. I don't like basically. I don't.
I'll look for him,
Yeah,
and I'm sure he has a website or an
yeah, and
Etsy. I could contact him.
you could shoot him a DM or whatever, and he'll most likely be able to he'll communicate with you. And I think that he would be a great guest, and he could help you and explain and demystify some of the things, like because that's a whole separate field that like aside from like the hybrid varieties that I know how to construct, he knows how to do the more traditional approach. And I think that that is something that it's like you want to be as well versed in taking a crack at something right off the bat. You definitely want to talk to the people that hyper focus in the you know that type of ocarina making skill. But yes, I love ceramic. I think it's a beautiful medium. I've seen people make uh, regular straight flutes, side flutes, drone flutes out of ceramic. It's a lovely medium, and the earthenware, the clay,
Yeah.
the basically it has a completely separate acoustic resonance and frequency, and I think that it has um, it has its own special value and its own special soundscape that is you can't like I was saying in the previous podcast. Every medium, every type of medium that you're working with has its own resonant frequency and its own qualities and its
Right.
own magic, and so it's good to have a smattering of all these different types of mediums to either have in your collection or work with, because they will train your ears, and they'll also, you know, you might just have an affinity for one over the other, and that's what speaks to your core, and that's what is meant to happen, or that's the lessons you're supposed to be learning at that time. So I think there's a time and a place for everything. So I love the ceramics. I think that that would be a lovely a lovely avenue for you to explore for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to start experimenting, especially because I'm working with terracotta. It's a low fire clay, it's porous,
Mm.
and that sucks up a little bit of the high frequencies like
Yeah,
wood would do,
yeah,
and just get a ceramic but sweeter, kind
yeah.
of rounder
It's
tone.
that's the I think that's the trade off when you get um, you know there is the pores. You know the earthenware does have it has pores like wood does, and it will suck a little bit away. It'll absorb some of your moisture from your breath, and it'll kind of dampen and soften the tone. But in the right context, I think there's that beautiful trade off where, depending on the actual material, you know, if you're using a soft wood and you're making an ocarina from wood, and you're like it's going to have a specific mellow
Oh
tone, and
yeah.
then if you're using a medium bodied wood, it might be a little bit brighter, and then if you're using a hard bodied wood, it might be really bright and active and have a lot of projection. So I think the clay has a delicate sweet spot between the two real good perks of like having a warm and rounded tone, but having bright volume and projection at the same time. So
Interesting.
that marriage is, at least in my perspective, that marriage is super important when you're making any instrument. Is like you need to have clean, warm, rounded out tonal quality, but you also want to have volume and vibrance and projection, and you want it to have a decent amount of clarity and brightness. So it's like that whole like we use all these terms to describe sound, and it can be, you know, a little bit subjective with the wine tasting aspect of like, oh, like, you know, when you look at round, you think of warm, or like when you think of bright, you think of
Right.
like, you know, vibrant or loud. Like the terms are interchangeable to a certain extent, but there is a division of like you know, you want to have a marriage of the best sound profiles from the extreme sides of the spectrum come together. And that's where you
Yes.
get a really good sounding instrument. And it can vary. It could be wind, it could be string, it could be whatever. So there's a balance there. And it's fun to think about that.
Yeah,
It's super cool.
absolutely. And I'm, eventually, once I get, maybe a few ceramic ocarinas off the ground, I do want to try bamboo because there's something about the irregularity of bamboo that can introduce noises that are preferable, not preferable, but noises that are interesting, give the flute more character. Um, at least that's how I feel about bamboo. How does it really work? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, it really depends on the actual specs of the pipe. Like, I have some raw material over here that I was going to talk about when
Yes,
getting
please go ahead
just
and yeah, share with us how you select your bamboo, your wood. What's your process?
so
So
when I am making a bamboo flute, I'm basically looking for a I'm looking for a bunch of things, and like I said in the previous one, I can hold a piece of bamboo and I can immediately grade it and rank it in my hand and my head of like what is the best instrument that's going to be pulled out from this particular piece of stock. And let's say for instance this piece, it's not too light. So the fact that it's not that light means that there's a decent amount of density to the actual pipe. It has a weight to it. Okay, and then I look at the walls, and right there you can pretty much see that that's like kind of cookie cutter, like an eighth inch thick wall diameter right there. Okay, and that is where I will start. So when I'm making flutes, I want the body of the instrument to be uh, dense enough where it's not super light. Like basically anything that's really light on the hands and the weight is going to be a thinner and quieter sound.
okay,
It's just something that comes along with being if you're I'm I'm whispering and the flutes are whispering back. Like there's a language that they speak. And so I'm listening to the overall density of the material, and I can hold it and I can touch it and I can feel it. And I know that if it goes past a certain point of overall weight and density, usually it will make a very adequate and good to great sounding instrument. And then it's a matter of like when you're making a flute, the things to pay attention to is I'm gonna get myself in. There we go. Get myself in frame for everybody here. So you've got these nodes, right? And these nodes are solid. I can't stick my finger through this node,
okay,
and I can't stick my finger through this node. There is a wafer thin wall that is inside the bamboo that separates the chambers. So this portion in here that is between the chambers is absolutely hollow. But when you get to the nodes, there is a wall that's internal that you have to punch through with like a rod or a dowel or anything or a drill
right,
bit. And so once you expose one wall and you give access to this chamber, then you have one node that is still solid. And that's the easiest way to create a flute from bamboo right off the bat. You leave one node solid and you punch out the other node so that this whole chamber now is hollow because this node has been broken. And
right.
you just you take a dowel and you just slam through it, or a long spade bit if you want a very clean hole. So I make my when I use the node that's solid, it acts as the same traditional way that a native flute would, where if you're blowing through here and you're going through, you put a hole up top. You basically file this whole section down on the left and the right side of the pipe, and so you leave the node solid, but you file down enough where you create a flat plank, and it has to be razor flat. Like it has to be so flat that that when you put a flat block on it, and you try to hold it up to the light, you don't see any light passing through underneath where the block is. So it has to be super, super flat. And you need to use a mixture of coarse, medium, and fine files, regular hand tool files. And then once you get it super, super flat and you've created this plank, let's see. Let me get let me do this one. So we're going to take a block off of a flute, all right?
All right.
And we'll just show you the inner workings of how the bamboo flutes work, and then I'll get into how to make wooden flutes, like in a bare bones sort of way. So, as I was saying, this node is solid, okay? And then you carve this flat, you use files, and you carve a flat plate, a very flat plate. And then when you blow through here and the wind comes, it's stopped. It gets stopped by the node, the inner wall that's actually inside the bamboo flute. And then it comes up through one sound hole that you burn on one side of the node, and then you create the fipple, which is the blowing edge, on the other side of the node. And of course, there's specific mathematics generally for making the fipple an appropriate size in relation to how big the bore size is and that sort of thing. There's some balanced math there. Usually a fipple on an average size flute is going to be about a half inch wide, like east to west in diameter, and about a 1/4 inch thick north to south in diameter. So those are actually really, if anybody wants to try their hand at making a flute, at least a native style flute out of bamboo, those are the measurements that I would say take a crack at first. So your fipple rectangle right there should be about a half inch wide, east to west in diameter, and a 1/4 inch north to south in overall thickness. And that is a really, really solid template for just basically taking a stab at making a bamboo flute. Though again, this is the native style approach. You could basically, you could cut, let's say you broke this node right here. You broke this node open and it's hollow all the way through, but then this node is still left. If you lopped this little section off and you left this node solid, you could pop a circular hole right here, anywhere within like maybe an inch or 2 inches away from the node. You could drill about a half inch diameter circular hole down into the bamboo, and then right then you have a transverse style flute, toot toot, right there.
Okay.
So like you could, depending, like I'm gonna say native style flutes with the creating the fipple and doing that whole thing, it is more precision and more labor. It does require a little bit more cracking a few eggs to make a good omelet. But if you try to do a transverse style side flute and just do a regular transverse style flute by popping a hole in here, you're going to be able to make a bunch of side flutes really, really quickly in comparison to making a native style flute. So it's like you can take a stab at like making a bamboo flute really easily if you just want to have a transverse style flute in your collection. All it takes is breaking one node, leaving the chamber hollow, leaving one node solid, and then just popping a hole in there and then trying to blow across the embouchure like a traditional, jazz flute or a bansuri or any of that sort of stuff. So this is what got me started. When a bunch of bamboo fell into my lap, I was like, oh man, like I've got all this excess material, like let me just go for it. And then after a couple, like I still have in the back corner, I have the first flute that I ever made. Like,
Can we see that?
yeah, you should totally see it.
You're inspiring me, Kyle, to learn how to play transverse flute and figure out how to get an embouchure to work. I've
So,
never been able to get that to work for me, and now since I'm seeing it's with bamboo, it's much easier to make transverse flutes. I
oh
think I'll
yeah.
give it a try.
So this is the first flute that I ever made. It's you know, it's basically it's the OG Flute Wizard number one. Like, but
Awesome.
it's a piece of shit. You
Oh,
know, it's
why? It's so
like
pretty.
no, it sounds like crap, and it's got a big crack running through it. Like, so I've left it. You know, I left it. I left it this way to showcase the scope of my work, where it's like I've come a long way from doing this, and I still have it just as a reminder of being like, yeah, like I at least have flute number one in my possession. So you know, this is what I was saying. You leave the node solid. You pop a circular hole on one side, and you could get a really really clean circular hole by using the various gauges of a. You buy a Forstner bit set for like $10, and then with those Forstner bits, you get 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 5/8. Yeah, so buy yourself, if you don't have one, buy yourself a Forstner bit set, and they can just attach on the end to your hand drill,
I
your
got it.
electric. Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm set.
yeah. So you use the force. If you use a Forstner bit drill, you drill right in, and it'll create a perfectly circular hole down into the bamboo, which leaves some pretty nice like internal, like on the internal walls, it'll leave some pretty clean like sharp edges. And so when you make a transverse flute, you want the edges that are on the underside of the hole to at least be pretty sharp, so that when you blow through it, the sharpness of those underside edges, they split the wind, and that's what creates the vibration in the flute. So making transverse flutes is the easiest. It's the way to start, and the way to like crack your teeth on like, okay, now I get it. But then after you do this a bunch of times, then you want to start trying this instead.
Right.
And it's good to start with this for anybody that's interested. It's good to start with transverse, and then after you do your homework on just getting a general, like honestly, some people find like this style of playing with blowing across the embouchure, it's actually a little bit hard at
It
first
is. It is very hard. I've never been able to do it.
well, here's the thing. It's good to try, because like I said before earlier, you know, you're blowing through the halusi, you're blowing through a harmonica, you're blowing through the drone flute, you're blowing through the clarinet and the saxophone, and they all require different implementations of embouchure and breath technique, and as well as lip placement and cheek and tongue and throat and chest, all these things. So with transverse style flutes, is the same with like a shakuhachi, and like a kana and panpipes. They all require more of a guttural diaphragm sort of huff, like not so much of a push from the throat and the cheeks and the chest, but
Right.
more of a guttural huff. And if you think about operating from the tummy and you huff into the instrument with a very slow and methodical breath, then you're going to get the trajectory across the embouchure, and the wind is going to be you're going to teach yourself how to do it a little bit easier. So there, that's one of the things is these these require, like if you're blowing, that's why I started on the ocarina. I was like, the ocarina is essentially an adult whistle. And so you've got this like adult whistle format, which is so easy. All you have to
Yeah.
do is close the holes and blow into the mouthpiece, and the
Yeah.
apparatus
Easy.
like does the thing for you.
Yeah.
But then that's the thing. It's like with the wind, you start, like I started off on an ocarina. It teaches you how to mess around. The same principle as like a recorder, you know, a school
Yeah.
recorder. And then the native style flute is also basically a recorder. So ocarinas and recorders and native style flutes, they all operate around the same thing, which is a fipple style wind instrument. They are the easiest ones to play. Then, as most people think, transverse style flutes are and then end blown style flutes are intermediate to advanced because they require a different discipline from the way that you have to position the slit of your mouth and all these other things that basically it's like you've taken the training wheels off and now you're like, okay, this is a completely different way of trying to blow into an instrument and it requires a completely different discipline.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things that,
Oh, we can't hear flute number 1?
Oh, it won't play. It's got a crack in it.
Oh, okay.
It's completely, it just has a beautiful crack going down the whole middle of it. So
Okay.
if I try to play into it, it won't even make a sound.
Oh,
Because
okay. I was just curious. It's like, yeah, you did mention there was a crack. It's like, oh, but maybe it'll be noisy and interesting. But if it won't make a sound, well.
And it kind of segues. This is one of the things that I wanted to ask about cigar box guitars and whatnot. Unless you still have more questions about flute making, I'll get into. I will do this real quick. So, in relation to the bamboo has a much easier way of creating the instrument for you. Like the instrument's almost like halfway made already. Especially, it's like 3/4 of the way made if you do a transverse style bamboo flute.
Right.
All you have to do is poke a hole in one part of the instrument, get a good angle on how you blow into it, and the rest of the chamber is going to fire and operate properly. But with wooden flutes, there's so much more going on there. So as I was saying in the previous pod, this is a regular stav or a plank of wood. Okay, you've got a regular board of wood. This is about, I'm gonna say, 3/4 inches thick from north to south here, about 3/4 inches thick, about 1.5 inches wide, and then I don't know. This is probably, I'm gonna say, 1.5 feet, maybe almost 2 feet long. Okay, and when you're making wooden flutes in the traditional routing sense, you use a router and these box core cutting bits. Okay, and you stick this in your router on your router table, and as you could see, this is what it would be doing to the flute. And then this bit is spinning super fast and then routes out this entire chamber. And then you have this beautiful half moon gouge taken out of one of the stabs. And then you take another board that's the identical board of this, and then you do that same thing to that board, and then you slap both boards together and you glue it, and then you start shaping it. And of course, you have to, what's nice about boards is that it's already flat. So putting a flat fetish on top of it and doing the same principle as, what's it called? Basically doing this type of thing on a flat board, it's already flat. Right. So all you have to do is make, you make a nice totem or a nice fetish, and then you can carve the channel in the fetish instead of doing it on the material itself. But there's two ways. You can do like imagine this little recessed carve out on this piece of cedar. You can also do that on wood. So if you, once again, there's ways of doing this. You can use a router, or you can take a Forstner bit and you can grind off the point that's on the Forstner bit and completely grind the point off, and then attach the Forstner bit to a drill press so that it's facing downward. And then you station your plank and you lock it into place with your miter gauges on a drill press, and then you drop your drill press down onto the wooden material, and you drill in with that Forstner bit just to, like, I don't know, like a few millimeters to 1/8 of an inch, and then you just drag the material, and then you create a recessed chamber inside of the flute itself. So there's so many ways of approaching how to make the flutes, and that's two separate ways. Like, I use a combination of the two. I don't have a drill press and I don't have Forstner bits that I've grinded the point off of, But that's a way of doing it where some flute makers recess their chamber down into the material, and other flute makers, like myself and handfuls of others, we create the recessed channel inside of the block instead.
Hmm.
And so there's totally, you could do one over the other, but as long as you know how to do it right, the sound design is going to be easily replicatable and the same. You're going to get the same sort of results as long as you know how to, file and carve a fipple and do everything properly. Um, so there is that goes and showcases like the differences between like making a bamboo flute. You can easily make a side flute or two by just breaking a node, leaving one node solid, popping a hole in there, and then getting used to messing around with, getting the embouchure right.
Right.
And then at the same time, the intervals of like having math, like where do I put the finger holes? Like
exactly.
it's the same set of conundrums and math that goes along with putting the frets properly on the neck of a guitar. It's
interesting. Okay.
It's the same, like it's different because it's a hollow tubular chamber, and the math is different, but it's the same principles. It's everything is the distances between things, as long as you have cookie cutter results, like it basically boils down to each diameter of the chamber, each actual diameter of a flute, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, 1 inch, inch and a quarter, and inch and a half. Those are the general standard templates that people are making flutes out of. Usually it's 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch. And then the higher pitch flutes can be 5/8, and the contrabass flutes can be inch and a quarter to inch and a half. And within all of those templates, you're going to have very, very mapped out scenarios. It's so much easier to have replicatable cookie cutter math with doing the wooden flutes.
Yeah.
Because the router bits are machine perfect. Okay? So if you want something that you cut your teeth on, and like then you get one template that works, and then you write down that math, and then you can easily replicate that flute over and over and over again. That's why the routers, when you're making wooden flutes, they're going to give you a much more replicatable result. When you're making flutes out of bamboo, yes, they have bore sizes that could fall somewhere in between. And sometimes they could be perfect. Sometimes you can get a bore that's like right on, that's like 3/4 or 1 inch or whatever. But sometimes they're going to have bores that break the rules that are like somewhere in between both of those ideal measurements. And then you have to know how to manipulate that format. So it's best to work with like the structured formats first, so that you understand where some of these notes actually exist, or at least the tonic, the fundamental of like what the flute is resonating at with its root note, all finger holes closed. And then within that space, once you mess around enough and you break a few eggs, and you make like maybe one good omelet after a bunch of times, then you can start writing that stuff down, and you'll make less and less mistakes as you try again and again and again. And then you write all that stuff down, and then you keep a log. And then once your log starts to expand and you've had a bunch of good recipes that work, then you can follow those recipes over and over again. It's harder. This is a harder medium in the long run to perfect. That's why I still like making them more so over wooden flutes, because
Still a challenge.
it's always a challenge. And then I like to push myself in that way. But when you're doing wood, these things take care of all of the anomalies for you. Most of them. So the box core bits, the 5/8, the 3/4, the 7/8, the 1 inch, the 1 1/4, all of those bits, since they're machine perfect, they allow you to have a much more stable result when you're making a wooden flute, and it's easier to write down the math. It's easier to do all that stuff afterwards. And there's tons of math out there. Like there's plenty of websites that like show you templates. There's an old one that's been around for the dawn of the internet. It's like Flutopia or something like that, or Flutopedia. It's been out there for a very, very long time. It's like old school HTML, like birth of the internet style
That's
website.
awesome. Gotta check it out.
Oh, it's great. I highly recommend anybody look at it because it does have this massive encyclopedia style database of like all things flute related. And it's a nice database for people that like want to cut their teeth and like experiment. But then again, there's plenty of YouTubers out there that have made tons of videos of like people that they're just like doing a time lapse of them making a flute out of this material or bamboo or reed or this or that or the other thing. And there's tons of YouTube videos out there now where that's the best part about YouTube is that like you could totally learn how to do almost anything now
The
for
University
free.
of YouTube.
It's the best. It's so nice that people are just like delivering the knowledge,
Sharing.
to the public and sharing. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to. There's no paywall or anything. You can just like watch a video 5 or 6 times and then be like, oh, now I know how to change the filter in my car. It's like, and if you're willing to like do it, it's like,
Yeah.
but if people are at least being, they take good footage and, they label things and they show you the step-by-step process. All it is like stopping the video, going and doing that step, watching it a bunch of times, and then you did it, and then you move on to the next step. And it's like, yeah, it's a slow process, but like anybody can literally do anything now if they're willing to like
Exactly.
take the time to do it. So
Exactly.
that's my thing.
Yeah.
It's like just go for it. Like you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna like make a bunch of blunders like at first, and that's okay. Like that's totally fine. It's all a part of the growth process. At least that's how I think about it.
It's a necessary part of the
Yeah.
growth process. Sometimes academia likes to, theory, very, very little practical. And
We got any questions from the chat? We've been going for a little while.
yeah, let's check. Let's see what the chat's talking about. We have a very active chat here. Let me see. Okay, chat. I'm gonna up track here a little bit and see if we have any questions for Kyle. Okay, we have a question from Webb from the Electric Cigar Box, and he's asking Kyle, for a ceramic ocarina, do you like wax core? Not sure what that means, but
I mean, are you referring to most likely just waxing the inside of the instrument before it's fired?
he has the follow-up question is, or is it molded up level by level?
Oh, wax core. Like, I mean, using a wax mold to create the instrument? I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly what the
That's what
question
I
is.
think he's asking, yeah.
I mean, honestly, when you have these templates that are there, like, they are very helpful. Especially when you're doing, like, if you're doing molds and impressions and then you're filling it and then you have, it's a really good way to, like, those molds, like you could probably get them 3D printed as well. Like there's so many resources out there now that like you could just do all this stuff like super for like affordable in a way. I mean, you could also 3D. I've played 3D printed ocarinas before, and I play I 3D printed ocarinas and 3D printed flutes and stuff. Like they're actually like they're a pretty decent thing now, and they're chill. And yes, the medium is fine. Like it does sound good if you make it well, and the templates are there. And there's this balance there where it's like, as a maker, it's like I respect that it's being done, but I also feel that it's undercutting the market a little bit. And like it's like, yes, if you don't have the money to afford like a nice handmade like product, yes, like there are these options that are out there,
right?
And they're nice for somebody to like, oh, I want to try this, but I don't want to break the bank in case it's not for me. Like
to learn how to play. Yeah.
I get it. And that's where I think it's important that they're there. And of course, the sound quality is still, I mean, relatively comparable. Like you are getting the resonance of like, you're getting the resonance of like planches. I mean, honestly, some of the classical instruments that are made out there are hard composite plastic. Like you have to pay
Yeah.
a certain amount of money to play a clarinet
A
or an
clarinet.
oboe.
Yeah, my
But then then if you want to get the real wooden clarinet that's like made out of ebony or whatever, it's like
yeah.
double to triple the price point of what this
Yeah.
already expensive instrument is. So it's plastic has its own it has its own place, and I'm not going to hate on it too much, but I do think that there is this balance of like it's good for anybody that wants to try but not to break the bank and to waste their money. And
It
then
yeah, they're
there's a
great.
balance there,
Yeah.
and then it's like okay, like the sound quality, if it's made well, if the the equation in the 3D printing is there, you could actually do some pretty solid stuff. I've heard plenty of good 3D printed instruments. In terms of going back to clay and molds, um, I think there's an important balance to be struck between trying to create the instrument from scratch and doing it like as organically as possible, which has its own lessons to teach.
Yes.
And then I think the precision and the easily executable aspect of having molds and wax core and then slapping two halves together in the same way that wooden flutes work and then firing it is going to be easier at first. And so you can learn the principles and the basics. And then, of course, then you can start trying to do more organically, like shaped from scratch. Like you can have tools like, you could still, you could use like let's say you have like a really beautiful, like, machine cut, like polished stone, like a big crystal of some kind, like an orb, or an oblong one. Like you can use other things to like make the molds yourself, but still doing it in an organic way. You could wrap clay around, let's say like if you like have an obelisk of like a crystal or a stone tower or something like that.
Nice.
That you could wrap it around that and wrap another half around that, and then let them dry, and then like take them off and then put them back together. Like there's so many ways of thinking about going about doing it, but I would say I don't have too much of a personal preference. I think you're gonna have an easier time doing molds and cores first, especially since they're readily available, and there's little equations and templates you could get if you wanted to download 3D printed like stuff like that. Um, and at the same time, yeah, I'd say it's good to experiment with both.
I agree with, I think I don't think that the 3D printer, producing these plastic perfect instruments is taking away anything from builders, in that those instruments sound like plastic, and they and plastic is plastic, and the sound has no character. A piece of imperfect wood, bamboo, with all its regularities, those things have character, and we need to be at hand-shaped ocarinas. They're gonna have their own character, and
Mm.
there's too much emphasis on clean, perfectly tuned, yada 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 yada. Let's bring character back into our builds, folks, by using these, and you know,
Yeah,
and
that's the thing. It's like at the end of the day, if a 3D printed flute sounds okay, and it might need a tiny little microtonal adjustment with like some filing or something on like an undercutting a note or whatever, like that's very very small. It's just the wait time of like you waiting for the instrument to be like created by a machine. And yes, there isn't much soul in the machine. It's you pushing some buttons and executing like an equation that is being taken care of for you. And to me, that takes all of the growth oriented process of like getting dirt in your fingernails, sort of like the hard work behind it all, is like that's more the more frustrating part to
if
me,
if there
where
was if there was a way for one to execute a completely original design easily with a 3D printer to experiment with, to get, I guess, to get real, because I mean, I'm not going to knock the tool. There has, I'm sure there are people making really novel, interesting things with these
Oh,
3D printers. But
totally,
in as
totally.
far as just someone executing with on a template, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, it's the sort of thing where we are now in the age where AI and everything that's happening, like everybody's got a freaking robot like shoved in their pocket, like, phones and tablets and computers. It's like there's no way of escaping the evolution of what technology is actually doing. But I've always been of the sort where, you know, you have, for me, um, it's about establishing a synthesis between having one foot in one world and one foot in the other world, where you have, if you don't, it's like keeping up with the Joneses sort of energetics of like, if you, as the older we get, if you don't have a competency with the digital age, you're getting left behind. And there's a portion of me that has always hated that, where it's like, I feel that the whole Renaissance man like vibe of like, you got to chop the wood, you got to carry the water, you got to get dirt underneath your fingernails, you got to do all these things. And I think that the old ways, the traditional ways, the everything that revolves around creating from scratch with your hands is super super important. And it's not just with musical instruments, it's with gardening, it's with like building a house and
Yeah.
being all the trades. So something, a weird segue, but I think the younger generations that are occurring right now, they don't have access or the desire to explore the trade skills, all the things that make you learn by the tangible physical world. And everybody's so digital that all of these precious skills, even if it's like mundane, everyday stuff, like, digging a hole, it's like all of these things are getting like left behind. And something that I've realized is that all of the old ways and the preservation of like doing all of these old style, like basically building and creating with your hands, is so important, because the longer the digital age continues to evolve, there will be a decline to a certain extent of less and less people will be out there continuing to perpetuate these old lost arts. And I think that we have a responsibility to uphold when it comes to preserving these ways of creating with our hands, especially when it deals with art and instruments and making tangible physical things get manifested in reality. And that's one of those weird, interesting debates now, is that like,
Well, it's interesting now that anyone can go online and find a master who's putting out tutorials and start building. But I think
yeah,
few people are using all of these new tools, all of this new technology that we have available to, you know, build and enhance their creativity. And that now there no there's there are no gatekeepers to this knowledge anymore.
yeah, I mean, there's a balance there. I know people that have made like weird programs where you could type in, like, let's say the specs of like a piece of bamboo or the specs of the material, and then the program will flesh out what the best result will be to like turn that into a flute. Like these,
Wow.
and
Okay.
it's very interesting, but like I respect it because it's a lot of coding, it's a lot of tech, it's a lot of knowledge, a lot of man labor went into creating that code and creating
That
that digital.
program, yeah.
So the program is a physical product. It is a physical representation of labor that has then become digital, and then it does some of the calculations for you. But once I realized that it existed, I was like, no, like that's not. I was like, that's not for me.
It's like I
Like
don't need that.
I was like, I was like, I need to keep like grinding on, you know, and honing the blade. Like I think of myself as like a blacksmith in a certain way. Like we're constantly sharpening our sword, and our sword is it's our determination, it's our persistence, it's our growth, it's our scope of knowledge. And so you're sculpting and you're shaping and you're honing your blade over years and years and years, and you're never going to revert. So that's the thing that I like to think about is like even if you're a novice at first, the more more that you take a stab at the things that you're interested in, you're never going to get worse. You're always going to get better. And if you think about it like that, it's very inspiring. And the evolutionary aspect of the process is, you know, growth is always going to be perpetually expanding. And that is probably one of the biggest sort of lessons and things that I can share is that it's so much more rewarding at the end of the day. Like you get so much more out of it when you have to continuously like confront your challenges and your mistakes that you've made in the builds that you're making, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah. I learned a big lesson. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
You know, and that's huge. And you're still going to make that mistake again. And that's the fun part is that it never stops. Like every once in a while, I botch a flute and I mess up. And then it's like, oh, and then it showcases like, you know, that material, like it couldn't exist in those parameters. And I misinterpreted where the build was going to be able to go. And so, but as you keep doing this, then now I'm at a stage with my flute making process where the moment I start to feel that the instrument isn't working out the way that I was intending, then there's tricks to then completely shift it into a different scenario so you can salvage the work before it's botched.
Right.
And so there's a dance there, but you don't learn that like right off the bat. Yeah.
And also, if you don't make mistakes, you don't make discoveries. In a lot of my instruments, the mistakes is what, whoa, look what this did. I like that. And so
yeah.
I mean, a machine
happy accidents. They're
yes.
They're good. They're good.
And so if everything is pre-calculated and adjusted for you, no errors, you know, apart from execution of, you know, making, you know, drilling in the holes and stuff. Mistakes can be great teachers and can become part of your palette, your artistic palette, turn into something that makes your builds unique. And so that's just me on it. Looking at the chat, just catching up with what I was reading in the chat. Liesel, Cigar Box Guitar, says, I saw Justin Johnson play a clay dobro on YouTube. It sounded awesome.
Wow, interesting.
And that's very interesting. And
a clay dobro.
Wow. A clay dobro. I have to
that sounds really, really weird.
Yeah.
Like a big body of clay on your lap like that. Like that.
I would imagine really that's heavy as you know what.
I mean, if I can't, I'm picturing like a really, really weird, thin, like long kind of dulcimer style like box that's made out of clay. Like I can't really think about it in my head. Somebody put the link to that in the chat, and I'll check it out later.
Yes, please, Liesel. If you can do that for me, that would be great.
I definitely want to. I would even want to see what that's like. That seems kind of fun.
And
for sure.
Let's see what other questions and interesting comments.
Any other chats or interesting comments?
We got love the Flute Wizard, great flute maker and really great dude. I have 16 of his flutes. It's Mike.
Yeah, Mike just got the a nice bass ocarina from me a couple weeks ago, and
I heard the recording.
He's learning the ropes and he's enjoying it. The bass ocarinas are good lesson teachers. They teach you how to like really kind of get a little bit more precise with like how much wind you're delivering into the instrument and in regards to like pitch bending, and like if you're pushing the note a little too sharp and you have to go and pull it back so that it's a little flat, and finding that really delicate balance where the green line of the tuner is always hitting, you know, the needle's hitting on the green all the time. Some of them are a little bit more forgiving, and some of them are a little bit more they require a little bit more discipline from the player. But I think it varies from model to model. Like for instance, like this guy right now, I should demo this real quick. This is low B, a B3 minor pentatonic. So this flute is like, in real life, it's like 2.5, it's like 2 to 2.5 feet long. But in ocarina form, it's little baby flute. It's a tiny little guy. So I'm going to play it real quick because it's got a great sound. I'm going to give you some
Welcome,
reverb
Peter
and some
Pepper.
delay.
I forgot to say hi to Peter. That's delicious. Oh my God.
Sounded good?
Oh yes.
Sweet.
It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Those bass ocarinas, man. Oh,
that one has it's got actually slightly thinner walls, but because it's so compact, it actually has a decent amount of like natural volume. So it actually, like if I was playing it away from the microphone, I think one of the things about these is that since the sound apparatus is so close to your face, it's so close to your ears, so they generally have a pretty comparable volume. You could get a bass flute like this in the large, longer version, like up there, the big ones, that might be quieter than this. So
I bet.
There's some interesting anomalies that go on with these guys.
Yeah, Peter Pepper says, "Wow, sounds amazing."
What's crazy is that that's a B3, and what's it called? Mike got a C sharp 3, which is really low, like really low. And so normally a bass flute that's in C is C4, and C4 is a decent sized flute. Like this is a C4. All right.
Ooh, yeah, long instrument.
It's a very long flute, okay?
Yeah.
And so this is a C4, and that means that B3 is the half step below this. So every time you reach C, it changes the number of the octave. So below C4 is B3, and then everything is a 3 in the third register that goes below that, which would be B flat, A3, G sharp 3, G3, and those get to be bigger flutes. I've got an A3 and an F sharp 3 and an E3 and an F3 up on this rack right here. And those are contrabass flutes. They're really big. But when you get to do the crazy part is that what I love about the ocarina is that this is a half step lower than this, and this is like what the flute looks like when it's a regular straight flute in a native style, versus the ocarina just has a wider chamber and then it's blocked off at the bottom. So the fact that you're making this more of a sealed instrument, like the sound is escaping through the bottom, the tone holes right here,
Right.
and the hole. So the sound is escaping out of the flute. But when you're playing the ocarina, at least my versions, the whole thing is sealed. So when you close all the finger holes, the air is only escaping through here where the sound is getting created from. So it breaks a lot of the rules in terms of the acoustic physics, but really, really easy. What I do with these in terms of construction is I will just take the pipe. Let's say that there was a node here There isn't. I put an end cap on this. This has like a nice piece of wood down here that I had to seal it with. But sometimes there'd be a node there. So like the ocarinas kind of make themselves. They're already, if you cut behind a node and behind a node, you've got this perfectly sealed hollow chamber.
There you go.
Okay. And they make themselves that way. Then if you have a belt sander, then you just take the ocarina and you smash it down on the belt sander so that you get this super flat surface. Okay. And this
I got
is
me a belt sander.
hey, you could be making ocarinas in 2 seconds in this particular way of construction. So I wanted to demystify some of the process so that you can understand what, at the end of the day, you just need to know how to carve a rectangular fipple with an exacto blade and some very, very fine some ultra fine small files. Okay. The flat file that's fine, as well as an exacto blade. Those are the two things that you need. And then you have like a little drill with a tiny drill bit, and you just like, poke 1 or 2 holes into the bamboo after you get this plate. So basically you just take the bamboo and you buzz it on the belt sander so that it creates a really flat wafer of like a perfectly flat section on the flute. And you see how it's got a little bit of a scoop right here?
Yes.
So that's because I leave it, I make sure that I'm not buzzing the whole thing. I'm only buzzing like, so where the belt sander ends, where it's rounded and it keeps on rotating, I put it on there. And then the reason that it's a little scooped right here is because that's where the belt sander is ending and it's scooping. So you want to buzz it down, like maybe just push it like a quarter to a half inch, about half the size. So a quarter to half the way on the sander so that you can get a good flat, and if you have bamboo on the property, you could totally just like experiment and mess around a bunch of times until you get a nice, clean, flat buzz. And all it will take you is 4 or 5 pieces to like, mess around with so that you can get a good, clean result. And then all it's a matter of is carving the fipple rectangle properly and then making a little cap. And what's nice about the ocarinas in this construction is that you've already made something machine perfect flat by putting it on the belt sander. Therefore, when you put a cap on, all you have to do is, let's take for instance this. Let's say this tail was gone and it wasn't here on the thing anymore. Okay.
Right.
So if this is the cap, and this tail's gone and it looks like this generally, then in here, you see how there's a back ledge?
Yeah.
All you have to do is remove this, and so that it's complete, so that the chamber is one solid line all the way through, so that when you blow through, you're just like, instead of like the slit starts here, but then just continue it. Take this little middle section out, okay? And then you just blow through. You create a piece of wood that has a slit underneath it that you use flat chisel style number 17 with the Exacto blades. It's easily purchasable. And you use an Exacto blade chisel. That's number 17, once again, for anybody that wants to try this. And then you use the 1/2-inch style chisel. And then you just chisel out this last little middle section that's there, leaving these walls stable so that you have this beautiful recessed channel in here. And then you put that at the tip of the ocarina so that this part basically matches and goes up to the tip right there, where right before the sloping edge of the fipple exists. And then you hold it on there and you try to blow through it. And if you did it right, you'll hear the bamboo just vibrate and make a tone.
Oh my gosh.
It's so much easier than like people think it is. The easier it is. Like, these are easy in comparison. And you're also learning a little bit of how to carve a fiddle with making ocarinas, where then you could take that knowledge, and then if you want to make a native style flute, then the knowledge that you learned by carving fiddles on an ocarina will then be easily transferable to trying to do this. So I'd start with this and transverse style flutes if you want to really, like, you know, you want to start and have it be easy at first so that you can understand the basics of the way that just the acoustic physics of like how air gets trajected over a sharp blowing edge and what happens when you do that properly.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. That's a good place to start for anybody in the chat and out there that wants to like understand, like I'd say like certain aspects of the art of flute making, like 101. And then after you get all that stuff down, then you can move on to 201 and 301, which is like, that's where stuff starts to get really complicated.
I am inspired. It's time to start propagating more bamboo.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start cutting nodes and planting them everywhere. So
totally. And you know, bamboo grows so fast; it can grow
yeah.
like 20 feet in like a couple months or whatever. So
Yeah, it's a grass. It's like sugar cane. But it doesn't, for us, it doesn't die in the winter, so it just keeps going. And
how much bamboo do you have?
well, I just bought a some clumping bamboo
Gotcha.
a few years ago, and the plant that we currently have has these, it has a bunch of trunks coming out, the biggest one being about this thick right now.
Oh wow,
And
that's big. That's
yeah,
big.
yeah, and they do not go dormant in the winter. So unlike our unlike our sugar cane that behaves like a perennial, dies down if we don't harvest it in time, dies down, comes back up, kind of, you know, continues the cycle, doesn't really grow very tall or very thick. The bamboo is there, continuing to develop, creating new clumps, and so. But one thing that I've wanted to do, if I'm gonna start building, I really want to make ocarinas. I want to. To have enough material to experiment with and not go bust. Buying the materials is, propagate, and you can propagate bamboo just like you propagate sugarcane. You cut them at the nodes and just put them sideways on a piece of dirt, and then they'll develop roots, and whoop, you got a new clump.
Awesome.
Make sure it's clumping bamboo though, not the one that spreads and takes over your property, because
Yeah,
in a lot of
it's
places that's illegal to have, and then you won't be able to use the rest of your property. It grows super fast. So
yeah, that bamboo is it's basically been my that type of bamboo has almost been my bread and butter for many years. I go on like Facebook or Nextdoor or Buy Nothing or all these places, and I just type in the free community area. I'm like, anybody got any bamboo in their property that they don't want anymore? Like, get rid of it. Like, is it taking over your yard? And tons of people respond with like, they're like, I have way too much. Like, come and like dig up as much as you want. And then I go there and like I harvest like so many trees, and then they still have like a grove's worth of bamboo that I didn't even touch. But last summer, this guy, just a neighbor down the road, he responded to one of my threads, and he was like, dude, he's like, I have so much bamboo. And then I went to his house and I was like, oh my God. He's like, guess what? He's like, I'm actually cutting all this down because it's ruining my retaining wall. It's ruining this, it's ruining that. The neighbors are sick of it, this, that, the other thing. And he's like, I need to get rid of it. And he's like, it has to all go. And he's like, I'm going to be hiring a team to like physically remove it, dig up the rhizomes. He's getting a backhoe and like digging up the rhizomes and like getting all of the shit out of the ground. Right. So it's like he's going to be essentially ruining his backyard for a little period of time because it's going to tear up this large section of his property.
Right.
And then I was like, dude, I will take every single one of these bamboo poles. And it took a course of a couple days of me going back and forth to his house.
Wow.
But he gave me like essentially, it was last year, he gave me probably 3 to 5 years worth of material
You
for
hit a gold
free.
mine.
For free.
Wow.
And this is
Crazy.
pipes, like small pipes, big pipes, like every type that I could make different types of flutes of. He gave me like my paycheck for like the next 3 to 5 years. And it was like, oh man, so great. So I like to go out and like do it. Like I like to go to a place. I like to like help the people out. I like to dig up their stuff. And like, it's like a service. Like you're helping them. Like you're taking the thing that is ruining their lawn away, but then I'm turning it
Yeah.
into like gold at the end of the day. So what's nice about the pipes is that you could cut down one tree, and then every single node to node spacing could be an ocarina for you. So it's like
Nice.
one bamboo stalk can make 10 ocarinas. And then it's
Beautiful.
like, yeah, it's really efficient. Like it's a super efficient plant. I mean, I love it because it's so powerfully, and it's used for scaffolding in like
Yeah.
China, and like
Yeah.
it's like crazy stuff like that. It's like, okay, so it's it's definitely become how people have an affinity for certain types of plants and animals, and it's like, oh, my I one of my plant medicine or plant guides or like animal medicine, animal guides and totems and that sort of thing. Bamboo is definitely like one of my, like, it's got to be like one of my um like a deity, like some sort of like the spirit of the bamboo plant and I have a very
Have a
deep
connection.
bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's tons of other materials that are out there that I feel the same with, but like bamboo's up there. And I just have such a deep passion and appreciation for it that I mean, it's just the gift that keeps on giving,
It
aside from when
is.
it ruins people's yards.
Well, it's because they planted the wrong kind. If you plant the right kind, you could have plenty of bamboo and still have space to grow things, other things. So,
one of
um,
the one of the things that I wanted to ask in relation to, I guess we can segue into um, me asking.
CBG, yeah.
Yeah, I want to segue into some CBG stuff for a little bit. And my main question so far, I think I kind of know the answer, but I also am really curious as to like what the result would be for all of you makers out there that do dabble in this. Is when we look at a regular guitar, you have a complete hollow sealed body, and you have a porthole, one porthole, okay? And it's different from an electric guitar where you have like a humbucker and like the strings are just vibrating into the humbucker and the body itself is just a vessel to like attach all the gear onto.
Right, yes.
Um, so for me, when I look at the CBGs, I understand that the reason um, for the latch on the cigar box is to get at the internals in case the instrument needs an adjustment, whether it's to replace the piezo, replace the pickup, um, to adjust maybe the if I don't know if the CBGs have truss rods or like any of these sorts of things, like, but get at the neck, get at the components. Okay, I understand that the reason for the latch and for them to be more modular and modifiable, but my thing is don't you feel like you're sacrificing sound quality by having there be no sealed edge on the instrument, where when you're stringing and the air, for me as acoustic, the way that acoustic physics work, if you have a hollow chamber, you're capturing more sound. So you have a completely open seal on this body of work. And you also have the portholes cut out on the top of the guitar, depending on the way that you make it. I know that you're doing the treble clef F, or the violin style F and stuff. So my question is, I know that it's important to have access to the internals in case the instrument needs modifying. But what would happen to the sound if when you finally built the guitar, you laid glue all around the seam and you shut the actual guitar into itself, and like you actually seal the seam
Well,
on.
oh,
So what would happen there? Because I'm curious as to, is there a completely different sound profile? Like, have you tried that before? Like, I know that it's probably not done necessarily in the field, but
well,
like,
I'd like to clarify, Kyle, that I build cigar box guitars that are openable, but most people don't.
okay,
Most
okay,
people do
okay.
seal them, and there definitely is a difference. And in the chat, Liesel says no truss rods. She just used thick necks. Um, the thing for me is, it's not just about it. Yes, I having a sealed box. Um, but then again, the physics behind tone holes is so complicated. Um, I've seen Del Puckett, for example, build these hugely resonant cigar box guitars, but there are sound holes of different sizes everywhere, even on the back of the instrument, and so those are louder
Mm,
and punchier instruments. And you would think it's like, man, it's like, aren't we losing some resonance? But yet
yeah,
it's acoustically louder. And so
interesting.
my decision to keep it open, yes, yeah, to access the internals, but it's also part of the art. It's also a kind of tipping a hat to bootlegging history and things like that. And so I don't know. Some builders are Liesel, who is a fantastic cigar box guitar builder. Her instruments are way more refined than mine. We're gonna have her on the live. Liesel, I forgot what date you're on, but she says,
Sweet.
"No, these are CBGs." I'm trying to do the British accent because she's in the UK. Uh, there's there's a saying in the CBG world: the buzz is good. Sealed ones don't sound good, in my opinion. And so
Interesting.
it it depends on the builder. Everyone has such a different way to approach the build. Some people insist on a sound so refined it could be made, it could it sounds like a guitar. And
Yeah.
then there are people like me who are like, you know what? I'm not very scientific. It's just all kind of, it's like problem solving, but in the way that an artist does it,
Mm.
and experimenting, and and when I compose music, for example, I'm not just composing the music, but I also composing what are people going to see on stage, what's going to be happening on stage. The same thing with my cigar box guitars. Some a lot, not some, but a lot of the um, decisions are made. It's like, what's this going to look like on the instrument? And
Mm.
then it, and so I base my decisions not just what I think I'm gonna get acoustically, but what the thing is gonna look like. Because a beautiful thing is gonna be used, and something that's not interesting looking, not beautiful looking, is going to sit in the closet somewhere. So, um, but that's just my take on it. CBG builders in the chat, what's your take on it? And so,
Yeah, musical saw now. Like even that, like maybe a thin layer of rubber around the edge with a tight latch, so that when you do shut the box, it does create this this actual seal that traps more of the vibrations and makes the chamber resonate more. The only thing that I could think of, since I'm like, I'm no expert in this, but it's the sort of thing where when you when you're working with a hollow chamber, when you're working with some sort of vessel that's actually trapping sound and trapping vibration before it exits out of like a porthole or something like that, you think that if there is with here's the this is where it's a fascinating blend between like when I look at flutes and with a flute need like it's 100% necessary for there to be absolutely no air leaks and no leaking of any air in this hollow chambered thing. Like if it's got an air leak, the whole flute is ruined. Like nothing works, it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't make a sound, it completely shut down. And the aspect of flutes is that it needs to be hollow. So you look at like regular classical guitars, Taylors and et cetera, with this big, a big ass body. That's a huge body, and it's hollow, and then it's got one porthole, and it's projecting, and it's shooting out so much sound. So for me, that was one of like my, kind of a newbie sort of like, I'm curious as to why. I mean, I guess you answered it perfectly for me. Like, not all CBG makers that are making stringed instruments or variations of that particular style. Some people do seal their bodies and they seal it shut once all the components are installed, and some people don't.
Right.
And of course, there is a personal preference over the way that it shapes the sound. But for me, when I look at instruments that are meant to be hollow, that should be airtight to a certain extent, and then I look at how it's applied to the aspect of making smaller little guitars and banjolailies and things like that, where it's like, okay, like I guess you can experiment with the format, and of course it is going to contour and shape the sound in a specific way. And for some, it's like I guess in the field or in the community, they're meant to sound a specific way on purpose, versus if you then altered the format and then you sealed the instrument, it's going to have a completely different acoustic profile, which may or may not be to your liking, or maybe the instrument sounded better with the air leaking and the dispersion of the sound, versus if you sealed it, it would sound completely different.
Well,
So
it'll
that's
certainly have it'll certainly actually
thanks, Mike.
in the article about flute acoustics that I linked in the video description box, Kyle,
Mm,
it has a small section, and I was reading through this today. Is like, this is interesting. I didn't run into this piece of information before, but it said that guitars work a lot like Helmholtz resonators. It's a sealed body except for the tone hole, and I'm like, you're onto something there. And you can, you building ocarinas and understanding the physics of how they work, you can certainly apply it, according to this article, your knowledge of flute making to creating really resonant guitars with a good bass response.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and there's Lawrence there. Wait, Lawrence,
Jesus Christ.
Lawrence, I didn't want to bring you on until I played your unboxing clip again, because most people weren't here when I played it. Kyle, do you mind if I show people the flute that you built, Lawrence?
Yeah,
The little
go
clip
for it.
from the beginning, and we'll come back to this. Folks, this is the walking stick flute, drone walking stick flute that Kyle built for Lawrence, and this is Lawrence playing it. Let's play that video since we have Lawrence in the live. All right.
Okay, can I exist now?
You are existing. The people can
Yeah.
see you now.
Okay, good. Well, that's not the important point. It's like nice to have you respond. At first, I was saying things because I couldn't hear you,
Oh.
but I could hear Kyle, and then somehow that got resolved when I left and came back. But I've been just kind of sitting here, been wanting to chime in on the whole resonating chamber thing,
Oh,
and like,
sorry. Go
I didn't
ahead.
hear anything from you. It's like, am I blocked or something? Am I
No.
banned?
No.
Oh man. Well, anyway, folks, I'll be posting that unboxing video shortly, and you'll want to check it out on the Wayfarer Project, my channel, because there was some important. I think it might even go viral because of some accident that happened in the unboxing.
Like I
You know,
said, the Flute Wizard might not be pleased with the
well, there's
unboxing.
it's not. It wasn't that much blood, but
he he did, Kyle. He
no,
did.
actually, I cut myself with scissors opening a box because I used the scissors like a knife, and it was like. This is my first unboxing video. Yeah, no,
we
no,
we
I was
got some aloe on
fine.
that fast, so
Yeah, we got aloe on it. It was a little worse than a paper cut,
there
but it
was
wasn't
blood
bad.
streaming on camera, Kyle. And
but
so
it stopped after the aloe in a few minutes, but it was just like, wow, it's pouring out. Well, anyway, yeah, yeah, knife. I mean, well, scissors went into hand.
he wasn't
But anyway,
wasn't paying attention to what he was doing. And
yeah.
that's what
Well,
happened.
I'm just not good at it.
That's what I was thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it got its due, and now he can sound good. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well,
Very Klingon flute.
I did I did want to chime in on the whole resonating chamber thing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking, especially since you mentioned tone holes, without tone holes, with the sound vibrations being completely sealed in. Of course, they do kind of come through the box, but a lot of the higher frequency material would
Yeah.
probably not make it through as clearly if it was closed off. So you need those tone holes there for the higher frequency material and to get some of the, shall we say, attack sound from the strings and some of the buzz from the strings and everything like that. And I don't know, at least with Liza's lids and being able to close them and everything, I think the seal is tight enough that that doesn't create too much of a problem with her latches and everything.
Although I
So,
never tried weather stripping him, it'd be worth a shot, as you, Kyle, and Albert are suggesting. It may be worth a shot.
well, maybe around the ridge on the inside, but you still want to be able to open and close
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do that. It's no, I mean, yeah, experiment. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm curious, and I'll, of course, you know me. I'll experiment and I'll make a video so everybody shall know. The violin, yeah, the F hole. So many so many variables, Kyle, and the one thing that I have maintained, though, to make sure that, you know, my boxes are, you know, acoustically resonant, because the more acoustically resonant the lid is, the more I get out of the piezo when I plug it into an amp, is to keep the sound holes close to the edges of the box, because that's where the stiff areas are, you know, without adding reinforcement. And so you have the sound holes need to be stiff. The wood around the sound holes has to be stiff. And then in order for the rest of the board to, you know, resonate and give you more sound. So new luthiers, you're seeing that they're putting holes, instead of you know, making a big sound hole in the middle of the body of the guitar and then reinforcing it. It's more efficient for them now to make like the Swiss cheese holes up in top in the corner, because that part of the resonating board is already very stiff, and so it leaves more space for the resin for the body of the guitar to resonate where it wants to resonate, you know. Oh, okay. Let me check that.
Hmm.
Hey, chat. So now we're having issues with OBS
Let me
Ninja.
turn it on here.
Okay. Desktop audio. Okay, browser. Browser 2. Let me see. Properties. Control audio via
I
OBS.
think it was probably something like when you played my clip, maybe. That may have done it.
Okay,
I wonder if they hear me.
let me do this. What's the scene? Okay, Flute Wizard audio isn't working. Oh, welcome, Scott. Yeah, I'm trying to see what's going on. Um, Lawrence's browser too.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
coming through.
I
Mhm.
see Flute Wizard coming through on OBS. I'm getting a level from I'm getting stuff happening in the meter from you, Kyle. But
Yeah, you can hear me through the stuff, but I don't. I'm hopefully,
yeah,
well, they can. Maybe it'll fix itself.
chat. Can you hear
I'm listening to the stream. It's just had a delay, but I'm able to tell that, okay, that, yeah, I'm coming through, but Kyle isn't. So it's not just a pure guest thing. It's just him.
Ah, okay. Well, I see Kyle. He's not muted in OBS. Um, let me see if
Oh,
there's.
wait a minute. I hear him now.
Okay,
I hear what he just said. So he's
okay,
coming through now.
okay. Scott says he's coming through.
What
Okay.
the heck? I don't know.
What the heck? OBS Ninja. What the heck?
Yeah, I mean, when I first came on, I couldn't hear you through this, but I could hear Kyle.
Yeah, I mean everything was working for a little while, and then it had some sort of little hiccup because we haven't changed anything. So that's,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I guess
nothing.
it happens every now and again. That's technology for you.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
Well,
So,
we were just ranting about sound boxes and portholes and things, and I mean, if you could hear, Liza kind of touched on the. We were just doing a back and forth about what it would be like to maybe put some weather stripping or rubber around the lining of the box. And then that was cool that you like the portholes being close to like the areas of the box that have the most rigidity and like
yeah.
the most thickness. I guess that I think that that was a very interesting uh, approach. Like it makes sense that you would need to find some sweet spot
Right.
there,
Right.
and because you want the wood is capturing the sound. It's also vibrating a little bit, you know, especially in
Right.
the middle section where it's the thinnest. And
Right.
then I get if there is, of course, there is more meat around the edges, and it's more stable around the edges because it's where multiple seams are joining
Right.
up. And then
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So that's the only guideline really that I have in as far as tone holes and placement. And you know, um, I'm creating. You know, these F holes have a beautiful shape. I don't know how the F holes are affecting the sound versus my usual Swiss cheese thing, but I just take, you know, just take the general principle, keep them close to you know, keep them close to rigid part of the soundboard so that you get something that's resonant.
Have Have you ever had um, the opportunity to find, I'd say, other box like material, like that isn't necessarily a box, like, you know, the cigar boxes, they're most of the time square or a little bit more rectangle, depending on, you know, floats between a square and a rectangle depending on the box and what size it was. And but what about other, I don't know what would really work, but it's um like if you found like some sort of other like latching style box, but it was like rounded or like oval, like a big pill, or
Well,
you
I'm
know, like what
that's
about stuff like that?
it's
You know,
in
like a big coconut, but it looks like a big pill
Makeup
or
box
something.
guitars.
it's
Yeah,
interesting.
something like that.
It's
Something like that.
interesting that you mentioned that, Carl, because I've been reaching out to gourd banjo builders uh,
Oh,
Mm.
on
gourds.
YouTube. No one has gotten back to me, you know, and I'm sub to their
Oh,
channels,
because
leave them nice
you could
comments,
take
but
a big gourd and then splice it in half, and then like make do the whole latching thing with the gourd. You could
yeah,
have it be a gourd box and open up and stuff, and like
yeah. Some people
that's a
even
that's
take
cool.
a
That's
segment
very
out
cool.
and like
Very cool.
you know, stretch a membrane over it. And I've seen so many gourd style string instruments, and I'm trying to get someone on. It's like to talk about them because they're so cool.
My friend in the my buddy Jesse, many years ago, um, he made a ukulele by attaching two coconuts together, and then
Ah,
he made this weird little ukulele with like double coconuts. It looked like the classic coconut bra, you know, like
that's awesome.
it was really funny, but like it actually like it played and it made he's it was very crude, but it worked for just being a proof of concept, one would say. But he didn't have all the precision of like getting everything super tight, like maybe using like more high quality, you know, tuning knobs, and like having the neck be super stable on it. It was like he made this, it was more of a toy, but it was like actually still pretty cool looking when it got done. And I I just thought that I the aspect of using rounded internally rounded chambers, but
Right,
still the same principles that you're using with the opening and the closing of the box,
right.
it could completely change the sound again. And you could have
Oh, for
like
sure.
a completely different series of models where you could be like, this is the gourd series, and then this is the box series. And then they actually have their own, like, they have their own thing to them that might be more, you know, it's like one might, you know, it's like made that way on purpose, and then it's like, okay, but these are what these sound like, and then your
Right.
classic models sound like more classic, but your rounded models sound like this. And it's something to be very I mean, the,
We
you
could
know,
do pumpkin cellos.
Pumpkin
totally.
chip.
You know, like there's the big gourds, the calabashes, like for
Yeah,
like African percussion and stuff, where they're gigantic.
yeah.
And like of course they're used in the beautiful like multi-stringed African instrument that's like got a massive gourd on the bottom of it, and it's like it's really big. It based it's like a harp almost. Those are really cool. So I'm like, well, if you did it one way, you just get a nice size industrial bandsaw that has like at least like a foot's worth of blade clearance, and then you just slide that puppy through it and cut it in half, and then you have like, I mean, it needs to be substantial. It needs to be thick so that like it can support like it needs to be dried properly so it can support the
Right.
weight of the neck being attached to it. Because I know that there's a lot of pressure and like, so there's,
Yeah,
I mean,
with this.
I don't know, I don't
Yeah.
know about all of the deep, the deep construction of like the guitar building and whatnot, but it's still it's like, oh, what about these rounded bodies and like a rounded hollow vessel capturing the sound in the same principle as the cigar box style? Like that would be really interesting to see.
People,
And
yeah, people are doing it. And
I'm
again,
sure, I'm
I'm
sure.
I'm trying to get people on that are doing it. And a lot of people in our area grow these hard gourds, like the Hulusi gourds. They they grow really well in our area, and they
Mm.
grow them to do crafts, mostly to build birdhouses. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
once I, I feel like I need to change, resonators. I need I do want to try my hand at growing some non-food gourds, some crafting gourds. And
Mm.
so, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah,
So
that
you could
pops into
eat the
my head.
food out of them.
No, you can't. I don't no, I don't think you can eat the what's inside of these type of gourds. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know anybody that does eat what's inside of these type of gourds, and I don't
Well,
know
you
if it's
could
edible.
poke a hole in them and suck it out like sucking eggs.
I don't know.
We'll
Well,
teach your grandmother to suck gourd.
there's a guy, the guy. I mean, there are a few people who've I've invited to come onto the thing that showed the process of cleaning out the gourd. What's inside of it's very fibrous, but it doesn't seem like it's edible. It's very kind of like woody.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, these are
Mm.
just crafting gourds. And although I'm sure we can try making something out of the pumpkins if we get anything this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you can you even dry that to make it something, I don't know.
Not all gourds are created equal.
No,
There
they're
are
not.
some of them are some are non-culinary, it's just a
No.
weird a woody pithy core, and it's like it's not like a squash, it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's its own thing that's just, I guess that's what, it's like
Oh.
this like my mate, this traditional, like this is a gourd that's wrapped in leather, so it's like some of them are just meant to be turned into vessels that carry things, like
Yeah.
so it's like you gotta have one that is that carries the sound. You gotta make one. I would love to see that at some point in time.
It's
It'd be super
time
cool.
to get some seeds, Lauren.
Yeah.
It's time
Yeah.
to grow some gourd. I wonder if I think they're vines. So I don't know if they're climbing.
Yeah.
We'll find a spot for them. Yeah.
Well, your mother said she was going to try to grow some pumpkins over an arch. I don't know if she ever succeeded at that, but they
Yeah.
definitely are ground vines.
So Liesel, from Liesel Cigar Box Guitar says, check out Cliff Hicks. He makes traditional gourd banjos. I will, Liesel. I will
Okay.
reach out, and hopefully I'll get a gourd banjo builder to come onto the show and talk to us about these instruments, because they're super cool. I saw one guy build a gourd violin. Amazing. And the thing is, I thought
Wow.
he was, I forgot his name. I did sub to his channel, but I forgot his name. He was complaining that, oh, it's creating this weird resonance when I play this note. And I thought, whoa, that sounds like a synthesizer. I want to build that. And so
Mhm.
it's like another man's
Look out for
trash
this.
is somebody else's treasure.
I
What
still
can I
hear
say?
her talking, coming through the door. So
Oh,
she's not aware that she's not sounding.
I'm not sounding?
That's okay.
Liza,
No.
Kyle and I don't hear you right now.
Okay.
As you probably resetting the camera. and
Yeah,
for some
resetting
reason
the
that's
camera.
Yeah, maybe.
kicking out the microphone.
Grr. All right.
We'll just wait it out. Oh, there you go. She's back.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know
I mean,
how
just so
this.
you know, I don't know if you discussed this earlier, but this whole day you have been coming through something that's more like a room mic.
Oh no. You're
not your
not.
close mic. Yeah, because I hear room reflection and stuff. I don't know if
Wait, you're not hearing me through the shotgun?
no.
Interesting. I've been hearing her through the.
Well, it
Uh,
sounds pretty clear. That's why I didn't say anything. It sounds pretty clear, but it sounds a little more distant than usual.
Um, Let me see because I disabled the camera audio. Um, Video capture device. Yeah, video capture device audio is not enabled. So,
Okay.
Scott says we hear her. It's been fine here. I believe Scott, not you, Lawrence.
Okay. Well,
How
no.
about
I
that?
mean, well, how about Kyle? He and I both didn't hear you for a little bit there.
I think
uh,
we're having. I don't know what's going on with OBS Ninja. It's knocking one of us out every
Mm.
once in a while. Not sure what's going on. I see the signal in OBS. It's there, but what
yeah,
Ninja's
it's
doing, I
just
don't know. So
sometimes it's odd, but
freeware.
it's all good. No worries. No
So
worries.
chat. Any questions for Kyle in the chat?
It can be about anything. It doesn't have to be flute related or stuff like that. But and if you're all satisfied and quiet, that's fine. That's totally fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope Lawrence has been enjoying
Oh yeah,
the
very much.
flute.
Very much.
It's a great piece. You got to make sure that when you create a piece of music with it, I need to be you need to share it with me
for
because like
sure.
Yep.
when that's like the full circle thing. Like whenever anybody like that I've sent a flute to like showcases that they've used it in their music, that always feels the best. It's just like I love to hear how other people play my stuff and like you have a different style of play and you have different technique and because you're a different person and so it's like it's always nice to hear other people play your instruments when they get to be used for the purpose that you intended them for and then when I hear somebody like create a composition that they featured my flute in, it's always this really nice full circle like sense of accomplishment and it's a big it's very rewarding and it feels really good to like have those moments like reflected back at you. So make sure to
Hmm.
keep me in the loop when you do utilize it in any of your your recordings or your soundscapes or the things that you're currently doing privately because I'd love to hear it.
It shall be done.
Definitely.
And we got a request in the chat for you from Peter Pepper Kyle. He says, "Can you play some more of that ocarina?"
Yeah, sure.
And then Liesel had a follow-up question: Is have you ever played a diddly bow?
Diddly bow. No, I haven't. I've watched you guys do it though. And Mike, I guess too.
That I thought about making maybe diddly bow with bamboo as well.
You can.
I wonder what would happen if like the neck of the instrument was hollow or partially hollow. I don't know. Something to experiment with.
There's there's bamboo variations on kind of the koto and zither.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh.
Bamboo dulcimer, like they're
Wow.
out there.
Okay.
They're out there. And they're quite cool and they're quite nice if they're made well.
Right.
You just take a big staff of bamboo and then you basically just split it down the middle, and it basically captures the sound on the under like so if you split this in half and then it captures the sound in the underside and it does resonate
Wow.
even though it's completely exposed and hollow like it's not a hollow chamber anymore. It's like it's just an arc,
Wow.
and you can look through it. It rests on the ground and then you can just look all the way through it. So yeah, there are there are dulcimer, diddley bow, koto variations of bamboo stringed instruments that have been made, and if they're made properly with the appropriate tuning pegs and the tension of the strings and bridges put on the instrument in the proper areas, they do sound very, very nice. And you could basically make one for a lot less. There's still some labor involved in figuring out where to put everything.
That's the fun part, though.
But yeah, but they're out there. I'll play this.
Kyle, have you ever made any of those kind of pan flutes with the different length reed tubes?
I've never done. I've done yes. I've done pan pipes for sure. Yeah. I've done them in the past. And the biggest I've only done like small sets, which would probably be like probably like eight to ten pipes, like kind of attached to each other. And then you just do the, that's an end blown style flute where you're basically blowing like you're blowing across the top of a bottle, sort of embouchure, like a glass bottle sort of approach. And pan pipes are fun. They, to a certain extent, as an end blown style flute, or a rim blown style flute like Kena or shakuhachi or the Chinese Xiao, they require their own specific technique. It's very, very hard to play those flutes fast.
Yeah.
But I thought it might be cool to have something like that on a stick attached to the top of a cigar box guitar so you could play guitar and flute at the same time.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Can you imagine?
You would have to be leaning. You'd have to be leaning in and like plucking, and then leaning in on the. You could probably attach something on the neck.
Well, people play harmonica with guitar.
True, but that's because they're wearing the brace.
Yeah.
They're wearing the necklace, the harmonica necklace that puts it right in your mouth.
Right.
It's like if you're holding a guitar, usually at your gut,
I guess the stick on the guitar wouldn't work.
I mean, the pan flutes, man, you need so much air and precision.
Pan flutes are actually a difficult flute to play.
They are.
I know. I have some, and it's always been difficult.
If you watch the masters and the professionals play a pan flute and you see how fast they play them, they're using so much technique. It's like crazy. Like the fact that they can shift the instrument so quickly around to hit all the notes, and like you're using the blowing across the top of a bottle style embouchure just to play quickly. It's like, it's a very, very specific skill set that like takes years and years and years to get good at. It's an interesting one though. They have a very special and iconic sound because of the way that you play them. So that's its own thing.
But that bass ocarina is iconic, and
I'll give it another.
Yeah, Peter is insisting.
Yeah, I'll play it again.
Me too. I'm insisting. Love that bass ocarina. Oh my god. That is like the dark chocolate of flutes. It is so rich. It's so beautiful. It's delicious. So
we'll play this one too.
Look at that. Love the dissonances you
Hmm.
can create on that one. That half step when you come
Yeah.
into that, oh my god. Whew.
The half step is that's the fun part about,
Yeah.
because it's a drone flute and you got that half step creates all the dissonance, which is not consonant, so it gives you this real big tension note. And
Yes.
I
Love
mean,
it.
the Arabian scale is great for that. I mean, it goes, for anybody that wants to create it, let's say in like the guitar sense, it's tonic, half step, 1.5 steps, half step, whole, half, whole. So it's it's interesting, that huge jump between the half step above the tonic, but then you go 1.5 steps, and then you go half step, and then whole, half, whole. You can apply that anywhere: piano, guitar, keyboard, whatever, especially on flutes. With the flutes, it's like you need to build the instrument generally in that scale, or have it have multiple finger holes so that you can hit the half step.
Right.
Because the whole aspect of certain types of flute construction is that unless it's like a recorder and you've poked like 7 or 8 holes in the instrument, you can't play the instrument fully chromatically.
Right.
It
And
sounds like it's a harmonic minor scale, but you start on the sixth scale degree before the minor
yes,
third there.
so the harmonic minor is essentially the Aeolian, but the final note on the top of the harmonic minor is 1.5 steps
Yeah.
after the fifth finger hole. So the harmonic minor is great because it climbs regular natural minor except the final note before you reach the next octave.
But
And
this Arabian, isn't that basically the harmonic minor, but starting on that sixth scale degree before the 1.5 step and then
yes,
following the same pattern?
it's reversed exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting, because like then with the half step below and then the 1.5 steps, then it just climbs sort of natural minor all the way up to the top. But there is a difference in another scale, the Byzantine scale. It starts that way with the half step, 1.5 steps, but then the final note, the sixth finger hole on the flute, is the same as the harmonic minor, where it's 1.5 steps before the next octave hits. And
Mm.
really, really cool to hear these one note variations on the scale, and then how that really shapes the phrasing of like what you can do with the phrasing and the passes that you want to make
Right.
Yep.
as you ascend and descend the flute. It's really fun to explore those scales. Mike really loves the harmonic minor scale like crazy. I think he said that's like one of his favorite scales. So he's got a couple of my flutes that are in harmonic minor, and he just loves it. And I like it too, because if the flute's made well, you can do some cross fingering techniques at the top 2 holes, which, if done properly, not only if the flute's made with the proper intervals and the math is right, the harmonic minor is very versatile, because then you can play the Aeolian minor, you can play the Dorian, you can play the minor pentatonic, you can also play the Japanese hirajoshi. So there's all of these. So certain modes have way more versatility. They just require more intermediate to advanced, like
Technique, yeah.
mapping out of technique with the fingers and the hands. Like this new tuning that I've been working with, um, it's called the Megan Avot scale, Magenavot, and it's a 7 hole flute, and it has the half step above the tonic, but then it's got a thumb hole in the back as hole number 4. And if you play it in a certain way, it does all 4 of the modes that I was just talking about. It does, if you play it in a certain way, you can get the Arabian Hijaz out of it. If you play it in a certain way, you can get the Aeolian and the minor pentatonic climb out of it, as well as the Japanese hirajoshi just exists in those modes anyway with
Wow.
regular cross fingering. So it's like,
Versatile.
yeah, it's 4 flutes in one, and that's why the harmonic minor, if you build a flute in the harmonic, it actually is 4 to 5 flutes in one as well, depending on if the instrument was made precisely and it has certain notes can be achieved by doing quarter holing and like just peeling your finger back from a hole just a smidge, where you're leaking air out of the hole, so you're only giving it enough juice where you can milk certain flute notes. But it's interesting with the minor pentatonic. if you've got a big bass flute like this and it's made in a traditional minor pentatonic style where it's 6 finger holes and they're all set in the middle third of the instrument and they're equidistant from each other, the only downside to these flutes is that usually you can't get the fully chromatic aspect of it because the half step that exists above the tonic is pitched too far up. Normally it would exist somewhere down here. So when you lift this, if you try to crack that hole, you might get a whole step above the tonic, not the half step.
Right.
So if it's made well, sometimes this note can have the half step and the whole step if you just go, like quarter, whole, like half and then whole. But it's a mixed bag. You're not always guaranteed. So that's the only downside to the minor pentatonic, is that in the grand scheme of things, it usually lacks that half step above the tonic, making the instrument not fully chromatic. And there's that dance of saying, okay, if I just change the tuning and add an extra hole in there, and you can do some certain cross fingering techniques, like look at all the range that you have with a flute like this. I'll do a little demo.
Cool.
So that's it. Generally has almost the whole swath of notes minus the half step above the tonic.
Grr.
And the minor pentatonic's great for that because it at least gives you like almost all of them, but they also might not always be stable. And if they're not stable, then you can't really use them quickly and with very complex phrasing. So there's something about exploring the other tunings and doctoring the other tunings into the flutes, because they give you access to other things, but they also take away. It's like this fun balance. Sometimes you can make a Dorian or an Aeolian flute that has like actually almost 2 full octaves of range. Like for instance, the Arabian tuning. This is a double octave Arabian. I can get 2 full passes of climbs on this flute, and it doesn't always work out that way. But the Arabian scale, as well as the harmonic minor, the Dorian, and the Aeolian, if they're all keyed separately into a flute with their specific fingerings, and they're made with the right material that's dense enough, and the finger holes are put in the right spot, sometimes you can get a full 2 octaves of range out of the instrument, which for like a handmade woodwind is
difficult.
Absolutely incredible. Like,
Yeah.
and it does, because it doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
And that's when like you got lucky with the formula, and like the instrument actually wants to give you like all this extra potential that it has inside of it. But let me get this queued up real quick, and I'll play this one, because this is an F. This is an F Arabian, an F4 mid-range F, and it's got 2 full octaves of range, so it's quite the anomaly in the grand scheme of the flute making. Usually when you're using a hardwood or a wood that's got a decent amount of density to it, you're going to have like longer, skinnier bores tend to have more upper register capabilities. And I mean, that's the reason why if you look at a regular jazz, like a silver jazz side flute, look, that thing is super skinny and super long. And then it's got 3 octaves of range in it because of that. So the longer and the skinnier the bore, usually the more it denotes upper register capabilities, or at least it's possible to activate the upper register capabilities more so. And that's just like flute jargon that you learn over a period of time. Like, it's just kind of, there's certain ways of achieving higher octave functionality but not every flute is guaranteed to give you, even the first one or two notes in the upper register, which is just one of those interesting things that you learn along the time. But Arabian, Dorian, Aeolian, and harmonic minor, since their finger holes are set, their finger holes are set a lot lower on the chamber, and that's another factor. The lower the finger holes are set away from the fipple, most of the time it'll allow the instrument to have possibly some extra upper register capabilities that would not be accessible when you key the instrument in with the finger holes set in like the middle third of the chamber, versus these are like really close to the bottom of the flute, as you can see. They're shifted much further down, so it would be like this and this, and you see how far how lower this is in terms of where the hands are. So all of this solid material here that doesn't have finger holes in it allows for some extra reverberation to occur, where you can possibly pull out some extra notes in the flute. So this is like some sweet spot between 3/4 inch and 7/8 inch bore size. And therefore, since it's more of a longer and skinnier F, it was able to give me some extra notes in the upper register just by overblowing, and the finger holes were in the right spot for it to like cascade all the way up. So I'm going to play this real quick, and you'll see the range. Hopefully I'll back away when I'm in the upper register because it can be a little aggressive on the microphone, but so that gives you an idea of the capabilities of acoustic handmade flutes. There is some advanced stuff that can be done with specific tunings that don't apply to the classic minor pentatonic tuning. You could never get what I just did with that flute. You could never get that result on a flute like this. It won't happen. It's not part of the way that the acoustic physics work with setting the finger holes lower on the chamber. And so there's some really interesting anomalies that come along with building a flute in a specific scale, and then maybe it gives you 1.2 to 1.3 to 1.4 octaves worth of range, where that flute is like it had holes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 working in the upper register by just overblowing and blowing twice as hard. And that in an acoustic flute is incredible to have that level of range, because most of the time in a regular acoustic flute, you're usually only working with 1 octave period, one scale from root note to the next, up top. And then there's the exceptions, like more classical instruments like the recorders and the all of the classical instruments that were made in a specific way to like actually have that upper register activity being a thing. They're engineering feats. Like they're a separate thing entirely. When you're doing it organic like this, you're not guaranteed all of that extra range. So it's cool when you get it. It's like, it's a nice thing when it does happen, but it's not always guaranteed. And I love that aspect of it. It's like it's like Russian roulette with flutes. It's pretty fun.
But that's what makes it interesting, the experimentation, working with the materials you have and seeing what it wants to do. And if you're open to allowing the materials to tell you what might work, I think that's when you get the best results.
Totally.
Totally. And so, Oh, I see that the Electric Cigar Box Web from the Electric Cigar Box had to um, had to say bye, but it was nice having him here. And
Yes, it was.
Peter Pepper had a question for you, Kyle. He was wondering what was it that you were adjusting on the flute that you just played before you started playing it.
Oh, I had to put the sound block back on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I took the sound block off so that I could show you what the recessed like windway channel, on either side of the node looks like at the beginning of
Right,
the
that's right.
pod.
That was
And
the flute
and
you
since the
used.
block was off, I had to put the block back on so that the flute would actually operate and make a sound. So it was just me putting the block back on the flute. Which is normally called the totem or the fetish block or the sound block or the bird. It's got lots of different names. Um,
Some people actually make it look like a bird.
that is true. That is very true.
Very beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
that Arabian flute has a lot of range. It's pretty impressive to have almost like that top sixth hole is a little finicky, but to have like 1 through 5 like all working, like it gets the frequencies start to get really powerful when you're in that upper register. So like if you know how to move away from your microphone because the projection is so much more, it's like little things like that you have to do if you're using it in a live setting. But it sounds great if it's like au naturel, like by a fire or something, and you don't
yeah,
have any amplification. It really sits nicely on top of a soundscape that way.
and we are planning to do some of that type of stuff with Lawrence's flute. You know, make
Mhm.
some
I'm
natural recordings.
I'm very much looking forward to whatever you end up creating with it, and that'll be a delight to listen to.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We have many plans for that flute. So,
Mhm.
Awesome.
all right, chat. Do we got any comments, questions, anything for the Flute Wizard while he is in front of us right now, sharing his profound knowledge?
Thanks, Peter Pepper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, we have a
That's
nice
fun.
mix of U.S. and European
Oh,
in the chat.
lovely.
Yes. So yeah, we're expanding here on Psycheopera, reaching many, many people from across the pond and beyond, hopefully. So
Excellent.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Of
shameless
course.
plug,
Go for it.
Yes.
earworms.
Yes. Tonight we on earworms, and you are on the panel, Liza, as usual. We will be covering the music of Hans Zimmer and talking about some of the films that he composed scores for, and then focusing a little bit on the Da Vinci Code. But rather than doing a slide by slide through that film, we're just going to focus on some of the concepts raised in the Da Vinci Code. Our good friend World of Swap Shop will be there with us, and he's somebody that can really kind of take apart some of those concepts and give us some enlightenment, I think.
Yeah. Yep, yep. So don't miss it, folks. If you want to keep the party going, want to do something social tonight, yeah, just join us in the chat on Earworm 7:30, right? Did you say it was 7:30?
Well, it's 7 p.m. now.
Okay, that's
We're
right.
trying that, the earlier time slot, and it'll be nicer for Mike because Mike Gorley, who was in the chat earlier, does need to get up at like 3 a.m.
Bedtime for
Bed
Mike.
bedtime for
Yeah.
Mike. So we're being nice to Mike now. So
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
And for those of our friends in the UK, we start at midnight rather than midnight 30. So,
alrighty. So yeah. Okay, so I guess before we sign off, Kyle, I'd
Mhm.
like to thank you for doing this recap stream with us and for really going into detail for us today. And I will be rewatching this and, at my leisure and taking some notes because, yeah, That's the
Yeah.
only way I can. I'm a very kinesthetic learner, and the way that I digest knowledge before I actually try something, I like write things down, and so I look forward to um, rewatching this and taking some notes from the wizard, and so.
Rock
Uh,
on.
and so I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us here today, and super thank you for everyone who participated in the chat. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, firstly, for subscribing to the channel. And secondly, thank you so much for engaging with us here today. It's not much fun without, the interaction from people in the chat. And we really appreciate everyone who's here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
We have a nice little cozy group, and it'd be nice to grow it a little more. But I really like the people we have in our chat.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it was a pleasure. Thank you, chat, everybody in chat, and Liza and Lawrence as well. Always fun, and I am grateful for the opportunity to talk and about flutes and anything else that comes up.
And you're welcome to come back anytime you want. Kyle's like, hey, Liza, I need a date. I made this thing and I want to promote it. You let me know.
Looking forward to it. I'll keep you posted for
Cool
sure.
beans. Oh, thank you, Scott. Yes, please like, share, and subscribe. All that jazz,
Yeah,
folks. And
all the algorithm stuff.
do all of that stuff to help us in the algorithm, and go into the video description box and check out our beautiful links. Get to know the Flute Wizard better, get to know Lawrence better, subscribe to my mailing list for exclusive content. It's free, folks. So check video description box, and thank you so much for being here. And I won't do my shameless plug today. I'll just go into our beautiful diddly bow outro. Here we go.
Sweet.